I'm Leah, 28, and I'm sitting in what should have been my bridal suite, staring at my phone as my mother delivers the most devastating news of my life. Sweetie, we need to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow is my wedding day. 10 months of planning, every detail perfect, 150 guests confirmed. Honey, your sister Cassie announced her engagement yesterday and set her wedding for the same date. The words hit like ice water. She didn't know. Mom continues weakly. But that's a lie. Cassie knew. She's always known every detail of my life, every plan, every dream. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt completely betrayed by family. You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. The family group chat lights up like a Christmas tree. One by one, everyone who promised to be at my wedding tomorrow starts posting about Cassie's surprise announcement. My Aunt Sarah types, "So excited for the family to come together for this beautiful celebration." Uncle Mike adds, "Can't wait to see everyone at the church. They're all going to Cassie's wedding. All of them. Not mine." I screenshot every single message before anyone can delete them. This is evidence. Evidence of the most calculated betrayal I've ever experienced. Mom's voice becomes smaller on the phone. "Honey, we just think it would be less confusing for everyone if you maybe postponed until next month." Less confusing. As if my wedding is an inconvenience rather than a sacred commitment I've been planning since Thomas proposed on Christmas Eve 11 months ago. What does Cassie think about this? I ask, though I already know. She feels terrible, but you know how impulsive she is with romantic gestures. Impulsive, right. Thomas finds me 20 minutes later, still staring at my phone. My dress hangs behind me, a vision in ivory silk that took 6 months to order and 3 fittings to perfect. "Baby, what's wrong?" His voice carries that gentle concern that made me fall in love with him. When I explain, his jaw tightens in a way I've never seen before. "They can't do this to you, but they can, and they have." "Thomas, what if we just canceled everything, took the loss and had a small ceremony somewhere else?" His eyes light up with something I don't expect. "Actually, I have an idea." What if we didn't cancel? What if we made this even more special?" I look at him like he's lost his mind. "How could this possibly be more special?" "Trust me," he says, kissing my forehead. "I'll make some calls." That evening, Thomas disappears for 3 hours. He returns with his laptop and a smile that makes my chest flutter with dangerous hope. "Leah, what would you say to getting married at a villa in Tuscany instead?" I nearly choke on my wine. "Thomas, that's insane. We can't just fly to Italy tomorrow." He opens his laptop and shows me photos that literally take my breath away. Rolling hills covered in vineyards, a stone villa that looks like it belongs in a fairy tale, and a garden that could make angels weep. "It's available tomorrow. The owner is a friend of my family." Friend of his family? Thomas works in tech, drives a sensible Honda, and splits grocery costs with me down to the penny. How does he know someone who owns Italian villas? "Honey, this has to cost a fortune." He takes my hands, and for the first time since we've been together, I see something mysterious in his eyes. "Leah, there are some things about my background that I haven't mentioned. Not because I wanted to lie, but because I wanted you to love me for who I am, not what I have." My heart starts pounding. "What are you saying?" "My family has money, quite a bit of money. And tomorrow, if you're willing, I want to give you the wedding of your dreams. Not to show off, but because you deserve magic after what they've done to you." I stare at the photos of the villa, trying to process this revelation. Thomas Reed, my boyfriend who coupon clips and drives a car with 200,000 miles, apparently has access to Italian villas. How much money are we talking about? He shows me his phone, a banking app with numbers that make my vision blur. "Thomas, this is insane. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I've seen what money does to relationships. I wanted to be sure you loved me, not my trust fund." Trust fund. My practical, budget-conscious fiancé has a trust fund. The next 12 hours become a whirlwind of impossible logistics that somehow fall into place with frightening efficiency. A private jet appears at O'Hare. Italian officials expedite our marriage license. The villa staff transforms terraces into a ceremony space that Pinterest dreams are made of. As we board the plane at midnight, I'm wearing jeans and sneakers, my wedding dress in a garment bag, flying toward what feels like an alternate reality. "Who are you?" I whisper to Thomas as Chicago's lights disappear below us. "I'm the man who's loved you for 2 years and would do anything to make you happy," he says. "Everything else is just details." The villa is beyond anything I could have imagined. Perched on a hilltop overlooking the Tuscan countryside, it's like stepping into a Renaissance painting. Thomas, it turns out, wasn't exaggerating about his family's resources. As our car winds up the cypress-lined drive, I see staff arranging flowers that cost more than my monthly rent. "This is your family's place?" I ask, still struggling to reconcile this opulence with the man who insisted we shop at Costco for bulk toilet paper. One of them, he says simply, as if owning multiple Italian estates is perfectly normal. Maria, the villa's coordinator, greets us like long-lost family. Signor Thomas, everything is prepared exactly as you requested. She leads us through rooms filled with frescoed ceilings and furniture that belongs in museums. My temporary bridal suite overlooks gardens where actual peacocks wander freely. This morning I was planning to get married in a Chicago church with folding chairs and grocery store flowers. Now I'm in Italy being attended by a staff that treats me like royalty. The ceremony space takes my breath away. They've created an altar on the villa's main terrace, framed by olive trees and overlooking valleys that stretch to the horizon. White roses and peonies cascade from every surface. Strings of lights will create magic as the sun sets. Everything I dreamed of for my original wedding, but multiplied by pure Italian romance. How is this real? I keep asking Thomas. Because you deserve this, he keeps answering, as if lavish destination weddings are completely reasonable responses to family drama. Have you ever experienced a moment where your entire life shifted in ways you never saw coming? Because standing on that terrace, I realize this isn't just about escaping my family's betrayal. This is about discovering that the man I thought I knew completely has depths I never imagined. And maybe that's exactly what I need right now. The photographer Thomas hired captures everything, every detail, every emotion, every moment that my family chose to miss. As I get ready in a suite that overlooks Tuscany instead of a church basement, I can't help but think about what they're experiencing right now. Cassie's impulsive wedding at the local community center with grocery store cake and a playlist from someone's iPhone, while I'm about to marry my best friend in one of the most beautiful places on earth. Our wedding ceremony happens at sunset, with just the two of us, an English-speaking officiant and a photographer who treats every moment like art. I wear my dress, the one I'd chosen so carefully, but now it seems perfectly designed for this Italian backdrop. Thomas wears a suit I've never seen before, clearly tailored and obviously expensive. As we exchange vows overlooking the Tuscan hills, I finally understand what people mean when they talk about perfect moments. The stress, the betrayal, the chaos of the last 24 hours melts away, leaving just us and promises that matter more than any guest list ever could. The photographer captures everything. Our first dance on the terrace as the sun sets behind us, toasts with champagne that probably costs more than most people's car payment, dinner by candlelight with food prepared by a chef who usually cooks for actual nobility. Every single photo is perfect, magical, impossible to replicate. As we eat our dessert, Thomas pulls out his phone. Should we post something? He asks with a grin that tells me he knows exactly what kind of chaos we're about to unleash. I think about my family, probably just finishing Cassie's reception at the community center, probably feeling pretty pleased with themselves for pulling off their manipulations so smoothly. Let's do it, I say, and we choose the most breathtaking photo. Me in my dress, Thomas in his perfect suit, the Italian countryside stretching endlessly behind us. The caption reads simply, "Just married at our dream destination." Sometimes the best changes are unexpected ones. Then we tag the villa's location and wait. The response is immediate and explosive. Comments start flooding in within minutes. What? Where are you? Is this real? How did you afford this? That last one appears repeatedly, from different family members who clearly can't comprehend how their struggling relative managed to pull off something that looks like it belongs in a magazine. I don't respond to any of them. Instead, I post more photos. The villa, the gardens, the champagne, the sunset, each one more impossible than the last. My phone starts ringing. First Mom, then Cassie, then practically every relative who has my number. I let them all go to voicemail. This is my wedding night, and I'm not spending it explaining myself to people who chose my sister's manipulation over my happiness. Thomas and I dance on the terrace under Italian stars, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. But I know tomorrow is going to bring revelations that will change everything forever. The next morning, I wake up in the most beautiful bedroom I've ever seen, sunlight streaming through windows that overlook vineyards. Thomas is already awake, coffee in hand, scrolling through his phone with an expression I can't quite read. How bad is it? I ask, referring to what I assume is social media chaos. See for yourself, he says, handing me my phone. 67 missed calls, 89 text messages, 42 Facebook notifications. Funny how I became the most popular person in Chicago overnight. Must be my sparkling personality finally shining through. I scroll through the messages, watching my family's tone evolve from confused to demanding to actually angry. Mom's texts start with, "Honey, call me immediately," and escalate to, "This is incredibly selfish behavior." Cassie writes, "You're trying to upstage my wedding day." My uncle Mike, who never texts me, writes, "Who paid for this?" repeatedly. But the most revealing messages come from relatives I barely speak to. Suddenly, everyone wants to know about my new husband's family and whether we're planning to stay in Italy. The subtext is clear. They smell money and they want details. Thomas shows me his phone. Someone figured out who I am. An internet search for Thomas Reed Tuscany Villa leads to articles about Reed Industries, his family's company, founded by his grandfather, now worth hundreds of millions. Thomas is listed as heir apparent, with a personal net worth that makes my head spin. How did no one know this about you? I ask. Because I never wanted to be Thomas Reed, rich guy. I wanted to be Thomas Reed, the guy you fell in love with. But our secret is definitely out now. The villa phone rings, and Maria answers with increasing frequency. Multiple journalists are requesting interviews, she tells us over breakfast. And someone from a magazine called Chicago Social wants to arrange a photo shoot. I nearly choke on my coffee. Chicago Social is the publication my family reads religiously, always commenting on who married whom and who's wearing what at charity events. They've never paid attention to me before, but apparently marrying a multimillionaire in Italy changes things. By afternoon, the story has been picked up by local news. Chicago woman's last-minute fairy tale wedding in Italy reads one headline. The photos from our ceremony are everywhere, shared and reshared thousands of times. My phone buzzes with friend requests from people I went to high school with but haven't spoken to since. Everyone wants to congratulate me, befriend me, get closer to my apparently very wealthy new husband. But the calls that matter most from my immediate family have stopped coming. I suspect they're regrouping, planning their next move carefully. We spend 3 more days in Italy, each one feeling like a dream I'm afraid to wake up from. Thomas shows me sides of himself I never knew existed. He speaks fluent Italian with the staff, knows wine in ways that suggest serious education, and handles every detail of our extended stay with the casual competence of someone used to luxury. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I ask as we walk through the villa's gardens. "Because I've seen what money does to people," he says. "Everyone becomes an actor. Everyone wants something. I needed to know you loved me when you thought I was just a regular guy." On our last day, Thomas suggests we extend our honeymoon. We could see Rome, maybe spend a week on the Amalfi Coast. The casual way he says this, as if week-long Italian vacations are impulse decisions, reminds me how much my life has changed in 96 hours. I have to go back to work, I say, though the idea of returning to my cubicle after this feels surreal. "Actually," Thomas says carefully, "you might want to take some time off. Things are going to be different when we get home." He's right. The plane ride back to Chicago is spent going through hundreds of messages, emails, and voicemails. My boss has called 3 times, not to ask where I am, but to discuss my changed circumstances. Neighbors have reached out, suddenly friendly after years of polite nods. Even my landlord has called, probably wondering if I'll be moving out of my modest apartment into something more suited to my new status. The most telling messages come from family members who'd been silent since our wedding photos went viral. Cassie's text arrives as we're landing. "We need to talk about what you've done to this family." "What I've done?" I read it to Thomas, who actually laughs. "She's upset that you got married. She's upset that I upstaged her, I realize. In her mind, I've stolen her thunder by having a better wedding. Never mind that she stole my date first. But it's deeper than that, and I know it. For 28 years, I've been the sister who struggled, who needed help, who made everyone else look successful by comparison. That dynamic just shifted permanently. At baggage claim, I spot something that makes my blood run cold. My mother and Cassie waiting by the exit, wearing expressions that blend forced smiles with barely contained fury. They've come to the airport to intercept us. Nothing says "we missed you" like a good old-fashioned airport ambush. Very touching, really. "How did they know our flight?" I whisper to Thomas. He checks his phone grimly. Social media. Someone posted about spotting us at the Milan airport. Our fairy tale is about to collide with reality, and something tells me this confrontation will be uglier than anything I could imagine. "Leah!" Mom's voice carries across the baggage claim with forced cheerfulness that fools no one. She and Cassie approach like wolves in designer clothing, their smiles bright and predatory. "What a surprise to see you two here." As if they haven't been tracking our every move through social media for the past week. Cassie hangs back slightly, her eyes taking in Thomas with new interest. She's done her research, clearly. The way she looks at him now is completely different from the polite disinterest she showed before she knew about his family's wealth. Amazing how Thomas suddenly became more attractive. Wealth is apparently the ultimate glow-up. "Girls, this is so exciting," Mom gushes, embracing me with theatrical warmth. "We have so much to catch up on." Thomas extends his hand politely, but I can see the tension in his shoulders. He's dealing with my family dynamics for the first time as a Reed. not just as my boyfriend, and the difference in their behavior is stark. Thomas, we barely got to know you before, Cassie says, her voice honey sweet. We should fix that. Maybe dinner this weekend? The same sister who's never invited us anywhere is suddenly interested in family bonding. We need to get home, I say firmly, steering us toward the exit. But Mom falls into step beside us, chattering about how worried everyone has been. Honey, you missed so many calls. We were concerned something had happened. The gaslighting is immediate and shameless. They weren't concerned. They were calculating. The whole family wants to hear about your trip, she continues. Maybe we could have a little celebration dinner? Include everyone? In the car, driving away from the airport, Thomas is quiet. Finally, he speaks. That was interesting. That was them realizing you have money, I correct. Trust me, if they thought you were still just a regular tech guy, they wouldn't have come to the airport. He nods slowly. So, what do you want to do about it? It's a simple question with a complicated answer. Part of me wants to let them grovel, to enjoy watching them try to repair relationships they damaged. But a bigger part of me remembers standing at that villa window, realizing I could choose my own family. What do you think will happen next? My family thinks they can charm their way back into my good graces now that they know about Thomas's wealth, but they have no idea what's coming. The text messages start before we even get home. Aunt Sarah wants to properly welcome Thomas to the family. Uncle Mike suggests a big family barbecue. Cousin Jenny, who hasn't spoken to me in 2 years, wants to catch up and hear all about Italy. Everyone who abandoned my original wedding is suddenly very invested in getting to know my husband. The transparent gold digging is almost comical. Almost. Our apartment feels impossibly small after the Italian villa. As we unpack, I keep expecting to see rolling hills through the windows instead of the parking lot behind our building. Thomas notices my discomfort. We can start looking for a house, he says. Something with more space. The casual way he mentions house hunting reminds me that my life has fundamentally changed. A week ago, we were saving for a down payment on a modest starter home. Now we can apparently buy whatever we want. My phone buzzes constantly. Family members who've never shown interest in my life are suddenly full of questions about our plans and our future. The most revealing message comes from my cousin Lisa. Leah, I hope you know how happy we all are for you. Thomas seems wonderful. I'd love to get the family together soon to properly celebrate. Lisa, who didn't even RSVP to my original wedding invitation. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. Thomas reads over my shoulder as I scroll through messages. They're all saying the same thing, he observes. Different words, same message. We want access to your new life. He's right. Every text, every voicemail, every social media comment follows the same pattern. Apologetic references to the confusion about wedding dates, followed by enthusiastic interest in getting to know Thomas better, finished with suggestions for family gatherings. It's coordinated, obvious, and deeply insulting. And, what do you want to do? Thomas asks. Part of me wants to see how far they'll go, I admit. How much they'll embarrass themselves trying to get back in, he nods thoughtfully. And the other part? The other part wants to cut them off completely. They showed me who they are. They chose Cassie's manipulation over my happiness. Money shouldn't change that. But even as I say it, I know it's more complicated. These are people I've loved my whole life, even when they treated me poorly. That evening, Mom calls. Not a text, a phone call, which means she's serious. Honey, I think we need to clear the air about last weekend. Here we go. There was so much confusion about dates and feelings got hurt. Confusion. As if Cassie accidentally scheduling her wedding on my date was some innocent mistake. Mom, there was no confusion. Cassie knew exactly what she was doing. Silence. Then, Leah, that's not fair. Your sister would never intentionally hurt you. The gaslighting continues. Smooth as silk. But something in me has changed. Maybe it's the confidence that comes with security. Or maybe it's just exhaustion with family dynamics that never change. Either way, I'm done pretending this was anything other than calculated betrayal. The next morning brings an unexpected visitor. I'm having coffee when the doorbell rings, and I find Cassie standing in our hallway, holding a bouquet of flowers and wearing her most contrite expression. Flowers. How refreshingly original. I'm sure she Googled apology props for when you're really just fishing for information. Leah, can we talk? Sister to sister? She's dressed carefully, in an outfit that suggests humility while still looking expensive. Everything about her presentation is calculated, from the flowers to the nervous smile, to the way she keeps glancing around our apartment as if evaluating our living situation. Cassie, what do you want? I don't invite her in. I want to apologize, she says, the words coming out practiced and smooth. I handled everything wrong last week. I was so caught up in my own excitement that I didn't think about how my decisions would affect you. Not true. But go on. I never meant for things to happen the way they did. Also not true. And when I saw your wedding photos, I realized how selfish I'd been. Getting warmer. I finally step aside and let her into our small living room. She sits on our secondhand couch, still holding the flowers, looking around with poorly concealed curiosity. "This is cozy," she says, and I can hear the questions underneath. "Where's the evidence of wealth? Why are you still living like this?" "Cassie, why are you really here?" I ask. "Because I miss my sister," she says. And for a moment, her voice sounds genuinely emotional. "I know I messed up, but family should stick together. They should stick together." Rich. Coming from someone who deliberately sabotaged my wedding to satisfy her own ego. "Where was this family loyalty last weekend?" I ask. "When you were planning your surprise wedding on my date?" Her composure slips slightly. "Leah, I said I was sorry. What more do you want?" "What I want is for her to admit that she knew exactly what she was doing. What I want is acknowledgement that she's only here because she's learned about Thomas's money. What I want is honesty, which I'll never get." "I want you to leave," I say quietly. The words surprise both of us. "What?" "I want you to leave, Cassie. You've spent 28 years treating me like I exist for your convenience. Last weekend was just the most obvious example." She stands, the flowers forgotten on the coffee table. "You can't be serious. I'm your sister." "You've never acted like it," I reply. The door closes behind her with a soft click that sounds like the end of something that was probably over long before I admitted it. Within hours of Cassie's visit, my phone explodes with family outrage. Mom calls first, her voice tight with anger barely disguised as concern. "Leah, Cassie is heartbroken. She came to apologize? And you threw her out?" The family narrative is already being rewritten. I'm the villain now, the ungrateful sister who's let money go to her head. "She didn't come to apologize, Mom. She came to assess the situation and figure out how to benefit from it." The calls continue throughout the day. Uncle Mike leaves a voicemail about family unity and how success should bring people together, not drive them apart. Aunt Sarah texts about how disappointed everyone is in my changed attitude. The most revealing message comes from Dad, who rarely involves himself in family drama. "Leah, I hope your new circumstances don't change who you are as a person." The implication being that I've already changed, and not for the better. Thomas finds me sitting on our couch that evening, surrounded by the debris of family guilt trips. "How are you holding up?" he asks. "They're making me feel like I'm the problem," I admit, like I'm being unreasonable for not forgetting everything that happened. He sits beside me, reading through some of the messages. "You know what I notice?" he says. "Not one of them has actually apologized for what they did. They're all focused on what you're doing wrong now." He's right. Every message follows the same pattern. Minimize their behavior, maximize my reaction, make me the unreasonable one. They're trying to guilt me into compliance, I realize. Make me feel bad enough that I'll go back to the old dynamic. Thomas nods. Classic manipulation. They want to reset things to how they were, just with better access to our resources. Our resources. It still feels strange to think in those terms. That night, I make a decision that feels both liberating and terrifying. I start blocking phone numbers. First Cassie, then Mom, then one by one, every family member who spent the last week trying to manipulate me into forgetting their betrayal. The silence that follows feels like stepping into a soundproof room. For the first time in days, my phone isn't buzzing with guilt trips and accusations. It's just quiet, peaceful. And maybe that's exactly what I need to figure out who I want to be in this new life I've stumbled into. 2 weeks later, the nuclear option arrives in my mailbox. A formal letter from a family lawyer requesting a meeting to discuss the impact of recent events on family relationships and potential financial obligations. They're threatening legal action. Over what? I'm not sure. But the message is clear. Fall in line or face consequences. I show the letter to Thomas, who reads it with the same expression I imagine he wears during hostile business negotiations. "They can't be serious," I say. "What possible legal claim could they have?" Thomas calls his family's attorney, speaking in legal terms I don't understand. When he hangs up, his expression is grim. "They're claiming you have a moral obligation to help family members who supported you during difficult times." Supported me? It's nonsense legally, but they're banking on you being intimidated into compliance. The letter forces me to examine my family relationships with brutal clarity. Did they support me during difficult times? I make a list. When I was laid off 3 years ago, who helped with my rent? No one. When I had pneumonia and was hospitalized for 4 days, who visited? No one. When my car broke down and I needed transportation to job interviews, who offered help? No one. The pattern is stark and undeniable. I've been the family's unofficial bank and support system, never the recipient of either. But the letter also reveals something else. They've been researching Thomas's family wealth extensively. References to Reed Industries' recent contracts, mentions of property holdings, even speculation about inheritance timelines. They've done their homework, and they want their cut. They think they can intimidate us into paying them off, I tell Thomas. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The confrontation happens at a restaurant, neutral territory suggested by their lawyer. I arrive to find the entire family assembled. Mom, Dad, Cassie, Uncle Mike, Aunt Sarah, even cousins I haven't seen in years. They've brought reinforcements, thinking numbers will intimidate me. But I'm not the same person who stood devastated in her bridal suite 2 weeks ago. That woman was desperate for family approval. This woman has learned she doesn't need it. Leah, Mom begins, her voice quavering with practiced emotion. We just want our family back together. But Dad gets straight to the point. You have resources now that could help everyone. Family shares, prosperity. There it is. The real agenda. They don't want me back. They want access to Thomas's money. How much? I ask quietly. The question catches them off guard. How much money do you think you deserve for abandoning my wedding? The table goes silent, because I've been thinking about it and I can't come up with a number that makes sense. You're being unreasonable, Cassie says, her voice rising. We're family. Family helps each other. The irony is so thick I almost laugh. Where was this family help when I needed it? I pull out my phone and start reading. March 2022. I asked for help moving apartments. Everyone was busy. June 2022. I asked for a ride to the airport for a work trip. Everyone had conflicts. October 2022. I needed someone to watch my cat while I was in the hospital. Everyone had excuses. The list goes on, and their faces grow increasingly uncomfortable. That's different, Mom interjects weakly. Those were small things. Exactly, I say. You couldn't help with small things when I had nothing. But now that I have access to millions, suddenly family loyalty matters. The lawyer they brought looks increasingly uncomfortable, probably realizing this isn't the slam dunk they thought it would be. My client's family is simply requesting reasonable assistance. He tries. Define reasonable, Thomas says, speaking for the first time. His voice carries an authority I've never heard before. The number, when it comes, is breathtaking. $2 million, Dad says. Distributed among family members to pay off debts and provide security. $2 million. They even did the math. I'm touched by their thoroughness in calculating exactly what my humiliation is worth. That's interesting, I say, standing up, because I've decided to give away exactly that amount. Their eyes light up with greed and anticipation. To charity, I finish, the Women's Crisis Center downtown, in honor of my grandmother, who actually supported me. The explosion is immediate and ugly. Cassie starts crying. Not pretty tears, but angry, frustrated sobs. Mom accuses me of being vindictive and cruel. Dad threatens legal action. Uncle Mike calls me selfish and ungrateful. Through it all, Thomas and I sit calmly, watching my family reveal their true nature. When they finally exhaust themselves, I speak. You want to know what changed me? It wasn't money, it was clarity. For the first time in my life, I can see our relationships clearly. I stand up, Thomas beside me. You're right that family should help each other. But help goes both ways, and love isn't conditional on wealth. You've shown me that you're capable of neither. As we walk toward the exit, I hear Cassie's voice behind us. You'll regret this, Leah. Family is all you have. But she's wrong. Family isn't all I have. I have Thomas, who loved me when he thought I was ordinary. I have real friends who celebrated my happiness without calculating what they could gain. I have self-respect I didn't know I was missing. Outside the restaurant, the evening air feels cleaner somehow. Thomas takes my hand as we walk to our car. Any regrets? He asks. I think about the family I thought I had versus the family I actually had. About unconditional love versus conditional access. About the difference between being needed and being used. None, I say, and I mean it. Some bridges burn for good reason. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is let them. 6 months later, I'm planning our first Thanksgiving as a family of 2, plus the friends who've become our chosen family. The charity donation made headlines, and my family tried one last manipulation campaign through social media, painting themselves as victims. But by then, I'd learned the most valuable lesson of all. You can't control how people react to your boundaries, but you can control whether you maintain them. And I sleep better every night knowing that the people in my life now are there because they want to be, not because of what I can give them. If this story resonated with you, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about finding your strength when family fails you. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well without the people who never deserved you in the first place.